Good day. I will do a formal start in just a few minutes, but I'm giving myself a little extra time to get settled in. I will be your substitute presenter today. Ms. Raimondo, Jen, unfortunately came down with a sudden illness, so I'm stepping in for her. So it's going to take me a minute to get everything squared away. So if you've just joined us, I will be securing all the details, and I will share the slides. Very good. Now we can see what Ms. Raimondo has planned for us today. All right, it is 11, so I will get started. Welcome to the 8th installment of the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Signum University's summer reading camp. My name is Sharon Hoff, and I work usually behind the scenes to support our presenters and get your questions to them in a timely manner and just make sure things are going smoothly. And today I'm stepping in for Ms. Raimondo, as she did suddenly come down with an illness today and asked if I could step in for her. So I will. It was kind of last minute, so I may be discovering some things along the way, right along with you as we look at her slides that she has presented for us. But I do know that themes of community and restoration and things like that are very important to touch on. So hopefully we'll be seeing those things in these slides. We are covering some very important chapters today, chapter 13 and 14. My goodness. Law of the land is the big theme, and I hope I'm up to the task. So let's start. I've got to use my glasses. Thank you. Here we go. The law of the land. Well, we are going to reach the stone table, and we're going to see what is going to happen. Now, you recall that the children and animals and Aslan have all gathered at the stone table. Edmund is still with the White Witch as they are making their way to the stone table. The stone table is the focus, is the central feature of what is going to ultimately be the climax of this whole story. So let's see what the passage Ms. Raimondo, Jen, has for us today. There, far to the east, was something twinkling and moving. By gum, whispered Peter to Susan, the sea. In the very middle of this open hilltop was the stone table. It was a great grim slab of gray stone supported on 4 upright stones. It looked very old, and it was cut all over with strange lines and figures that might be the letters of an unknown language. They gave you a curious feeling when you looked at them. A curious feeling, a feeling. Now, where have we heard feelings before? We've had feelings when the children have encountered Narnia, to start with, feelings to encounter whether they should follow the robin, whether that was going to work or not, feelings with the beavers and how they felt comfortable, and of course with Father Christmas, and of course Edmund has had his feelings too, his misgivings now with the White Witch, and of course his feelings of turmoil and regret and consternation at how he's been behaving and the situation he's in. We've also had very profound feelings when the children met Aslan, and it just struck that chord inside them. Now we're having feelings with the stone table, curious feelings. How can something made of stone give you feelings? It must be something more deep. Let's go on and see. The tired traitor. Now, we must get back to Edmund. When he had been made to walk far further than he had ever known that anybody could walk, the witch at last halted in a dark valley all overshadowed with fir trees and yew trees. Edmund simply sank down and lay on his face, doing nothing at all, and not even caring what was going to happen next, provided they would let him lie still. He was too tired even to notice how hungry and thirsty he was. Poor Edmund. It seems like he has reached the bottom. No other feelings but exhaustion, no other thoughts, not even of escape. He had given up. He was completely done. Let's see what else happens. Now we have the traitors being betrayed. Let's see what Miss Raimondo has for us next. This is a great passage. So the witch is now thinking to herself, kind of talking to her dwarf, the dwarf that accompanies her sidekick, but she's really thinking to herself, 4 thrones in Car Parval, said the witch. How if only 3 were filled? That would not fulfill the prophecy. What difference would it make now that he is here? Said the dwarf. He did not dare even now to mention the name of Aslan to his mistress. He may not stay long, and then we would fall upon the 3 at Car. Yet it might be better, said the dwarf, to keep this one, here he kicked Edmund, for bargaining with. Yes, and have him rescued, said the witch scornfully. Well then, said the dwarf, we had better do what we have to do at once. I would like to have done it on the stone table itself, said the witch. That is the proper place. That is where it has always been done before. Very creepy, very creepy. So there is a mention of a prophecy. There's also the mention of the sense that something has to be done on the stone table. Now, obviously, if you've read, you understand what this is, and you understand how creepy and just shivery the whole idea is. I remember as a small child, the first time that I read this, actually it was read aloud to me by my mother. Everything felt extremely wrong. I wondered that such a serious and scary kind of subject or adventure could be shared with small children, but there was some sort of sense behind it. As we're going to find out, when you build a world, a really good author kind of thinks of those details. What are the rules that make this world that I'm writing about? What are the rules that make it work? Some authors focus on the physical science or biology of a world. If it's a magical world, authors will establish a lot of rules about how the magic works and share that through the story. In this case, there's some sort of really deep magic that C.S. Lewis talks about, and it seems to be tied tightly and, in fact, profoundly to the stone table. So let's see what else the witch has to say. Ms. Raimondo asks, what is proper about the stone table? What seems to be special about it? Let's find out. I could tell you. You could tell me in your questions if you send in some questions, and we will see what you think. There seems to be rules that govern it. There seems to be some power that it has, that even the witch would use it. Even the witch would want to have anything to do with it. She seems to be someone who breaks rules. So the rules, the magic behind it must be very, very powerful if the witch is willing to work alongside those or in line with those. So let's see what happens. The witch's hoard. I think I can read this without my glasses. I have seen them. They are all at the stone table with him. They have killed my Captain Malgrim. I was hidden in the thickets and saw it all. One of the sons of Adam killed him. Fly, fly. So this is the wolf lieutenant talking. No, said the witch. There need be no flying. Go quickly. Summon all our people to meet me here as speedily as they can. Call out the giants and the werewolves and the spirits of those trees who are on our side. Call the ghouls and the boggles and the ogres and the minotaurs. Call the cruels, the hags, the specters, and the people of the toadstools. We will fight. What? Have I not still my wand? Will not their ranks turn into stone even as they come on? Be off quickly. I have a little thing to finish here while you are away. The witch has a plan. Now look at this list. Oh, these are scary and intimidating creatures. What have we got here? We have giants. We have werewolves. We have the spirits of those trees who are on our side. So there are trees who have turned. We know that because they would inform on all the activities in Narnia. They would inform the witch of who was doing what. So those are the trees she's talking about, remember. Then we have ghouls and boggles and ogres and minotaurs. Minotaurs are man-bull type creatures. They have a torso of a man, the head of a bull, and I think depending on which version or whose illustration you're looking at, the legs might be like a bull's or they might be like a man's. It depends. But they're big, obviously, strong, whatever. Called the cruels. What's a cruel? What's it? There's not really, to my knowledge, a formal identification of what is a cruel. That's an adjective, isn't it? But you put a capital C on it and suddenly it becomes a noun, it becomes a thing, it becomes a cruel. Then we have hags, specters, and people of the toadstools. Who are the people of the toadstools? We might think little fairies or little gnomes or something like that, but who knows? One thing we do know, and you might expect, is that many toadstools are poisonous. So perhaps that's the connection between the toadstools. I want to go back to boggles. Boggles, what is that? Another creepy, sort of scary creature. I have some comments. Let me see. It may go back a little ways because I have not been keeping up. So let's see. Let me get my glasses on. Thank you, Jubilee. Here we have, she was there when the magic of the stone table was created. Yes, the witch was. You're right. So she would know all about it and she would know how powerful it was. That's true, Jubilee. Thank you. Let's see. Bella is mentioning that minotaurs are Greek. Yes, they have the Greek traditions behind them. Very true. Katie mentions that she likes minotaurs. Thank you, Katie. They are kind of cool, aren't they? They can be viewed outside of Narnia with maybe a different eye, and maybe they're not so much on the side of the witch, but they are cool. Very much so. Jubilee is asking, what are boggles? Jubilee, what do you think? Tell me. What do you think a boggle is? Boggle has a term, a connotation just as a word, to be boggled, to be confused. So maybe boggles have a confusion factor as sort of a negative way that they function. They boggle the mind. You were boggled. You can't think correctly or smoothly. So maybe that's where that comes from. Maybe that's their special power, is to confuse their opponent or something like that. Let's see. Yes, and Bella does mention that minotaurs are huge men with a bull's head. And Jubilee's asking, what is a specter? A specter is basically another word for a ghost or a spirit. It has the evil, sort of creepy connotation to it. So a specter is essentially a ghost with the intent of haunting someone. So there you go. Let's see, one more. Thank you for your answer. You're very welcome, Jubilee. Okay, let's keep moving. So this is the White Witch's gang. This is her horde. So this is our list. This is what we should have in our mind as we're imagining the battle and the fight that's going to come up in a few chapters. But these are the guys that she has on her side. Let's see. But at the end, she says, I have a little thing to finish here while you are away. So let's see what her little thing to finish is. A little thing to finish. Look, I anticipated Miss Raimundo's slide. Very nice. Good job. Here we go. Edmund found himself being roughly forced to his feet. Then the dwarf set him with his back against a tree and bound him fast. He saw the witch take off her outer mantle. Her arms were bare underneath it and terribly white. Because they were so very white, he could see them, but he could not see much else. It was so dark in this valley under the dark trees. "Prepare the victim," said the witch. And the dwarf undid Edmund's collar and folded back his shirt at the neck. Then he took Edmund's hair and pulled his head back so that he had to raise his chin. After that, Edmund heard a strange noise. Whiss, whiss, whiss. For a moment he couldn't think what it was. Then he realized it was the sound of a knife being sharpened. Oh, why did I get this day to be the substitute? These things creep me out, but I'm with you. I'm here. Okay, so obviously Edmund is still in the dumps. Apparently the little thing to finish has something to do with a knife and Edmund's neck, and let's see. Thankfully I've read the book, so I know how it turns out, but boy, first time I heard this, again, I'm telling you, was not comfortable. But I don't think we're supposed to be comfortable with evil. And I would go so far as to say the witch is sort of the embodiment of evil. But Lewis was very clear about that. There's really nothing about Jadis, the White Witch. Oh, sorry, I used her other name from the other books. Good grief. About the White Witch that has anything true or good or right or pure or clean about her. So let's find out. Let's keep going. The rescue. Yes. And the law. Interesting. Look at her little note here. All right, here's our animals who are going to come and help us. Let's see if I have any comments. Yes, Bella is noting that she is preparing to kill him, but doesn't. Thank you, Bella, for mentioning that. The sign of a good book, though, is that even when you reread these things and you know what's going to turn out, it'll still get you. It still gets you. It still gets me, especially when I read it aloud. It becomes sort of alive. So let's move on. Here we go. At that very moment, he heard loud shouts from every direction, a drumming of hoofs and a beating of wings from the witch, confusion all around him, and then strong arms were around him, and he heard big, kind voices saying things like, "Let him lie down, give him some wine, drink this, steady now, you'll be all right in a minute." Then he heard the voices of people who were not talking to him, but to one another. And they were saying things like, "Who's got the witch? I thought you had her. I didn't see her after I knocked the knife out of her hand. I was after the dwarf. Do you mean to say she's escaped? A chap can't mind everything at once. What's that? Oh, sorry, that's only an old stump." But just at this point, Edmund went off in a dead faint. Presently, the centaurs and unicorns and deer and birds, they were, of course, the rescue party which Aslan had sent in the last chapter, all set off to go back to the stone table, carrying Edmund with them. Phew, rescued. Okay, let's see what else I have. A comment coming in. Yes, Katie, yes, I thought she was going to kill Edmund. That was the plan. So maybe when you were reading it, that's what you thought too. Oh, that would be so grisly. So as a kid reading this, I was relieved. Oh, Edmund's rescued. What a relief. All right, let's see what happens next. What do you think? Now, before Edmund passes out, do you think he's feeling huge relief, or do you think he's still just sort of beyond that and in a dreamland? Maybe shock? He doesn't know what's happening next. I bet it's got to have felt so unexpected and so good to hear friendly voices and people who seem to be rescuing you. So let's see what happens next. Ms. Raimondo poses us a question. Is this what the White Witch wanted for Edmund and the stone table? Well, she clearly wanted to kill him, and she wanted to do it at the stone table, and there's talk about the prophecy and the law or the proper way to do things. So, of course, this is not what she wanted. Let's see what happens next. Reconciliation. Do you all know what reconciliation means? I'll tell you. Or let me see. Let's see. Reconciliation is to be brought back. And not just brought back when you've been excluded or when you have left or when something has gone wrong and you are cut off from something, someone. And when you are reconciled, it means you come back, and not just that you come back, but that things are balanced out, things are talked out, things are worked out, and balance is back again. People who do accountants who do the sort of the money and the numbers for businesses and things, they will have their books of records and numbers, and they will have all the money that's come in and all the money that's going out, and all of those things. They use the word, they have to be reconciled. Those books, those numbers, it has to be balanced. So they have to go through and tick down every mark and make sure everything is balanced. And so sometimes reconciliation is that. Sometimes it is just coming in and saying, I'm sorry, and that's good enough. Sometimes you got to talk things through and figure out what went wrong and really make sure that you know that what you're saying sorry for is what needs to be said sorry for, and that you don't leave some things out. So let's see how this happens with Edmund and the children. And who else is a part of that reconciliation? Let's find out. Oh, let me see if there's more comments. Becca's saying, no, she wanted to do it because of the deep magic from the dawn of time. Ah, well, you have read. Yes, Beck knows. And Bella knows she wanted to do it for that reason. But let's talk about the reconciliation, and we'll get more to that because it's coming up. As soon as they had breakfasted, they all went out, and there they saw Aslan and Edmund walking together in the dewy grass, apart from the rest of the court. There is no need to tell you, and no one ever heard, what Aslan was saying, but it was a conversation which Edmund never forgot. As the others drew nearer, Aslan turned to meet them, bringing Edmund with him. Here is your brother, he said, and there is no need to talk to him about what is past. Edmund shook hands with each of the others and said to each of them in turn, I'm sorry. And everyone said, that's all right. And then everyone wanted very hard to say something which would make it quite clear that they were all friends with him again, something ordinary and natural. And of course, no one could think of anything in the world to say. A little awkward sometimes, but the desire is to try to get back to normal and show that everything's okay. What I find interesting here is Aslan's role in that reconciliation. It seems he has the authority to be the one to balance things out. He has the words to say to Edmund that make it all right. And the others respect that it is private between Aslan and Edmund. And they respect that. And they understand that it's genuine. None of them questions it. None of them demands an explanation. And that's very unusual. That's very unique, and that's part of who Aslan is. He has that position and that role. The children, the other siblings, are confident that Aslan has taken care of this, and Edmund is satisfied. He doesn't feel he needs to justify himself or explain himself to the other children. It's enough that Aslan was the one person who worked it all out. And so I find that very important. It's another one of Aslan's abilities, duties, rights. Who he is allows him to do this. I always find that very, very touching. All right, so they have been reconciled. Let's see what happens now. And it's interesting to think if there's anyone in your life And this is just you to think about, again, making the books sort of your own, and just thinking if there's someone or something in your life that helps you to reconcile when you've gone astray. I mean, everybody does. None of us is perfect. So it's nice to have that person or someone to go to help you reconcile. Sometimes you do have to have that conversation with the person maybe that you've had trouble with. And look at how gracious the siblings were. They didn't hold Edmund under their thumb and want every little bit of justification. They were very gracious. They accepted, and that's something to aspire to as well. To be gracious as someone coming to say sorry, and to be gracious as someone accepting an apology. All right, let's see. We're moving on here. Restoration. So there was reconciliation, the balancing, restoration, coming back, things being made what they should be, fulfilled again. Let's see. Oh, talking about, this was after the White Witch has sent her minion in to ask for a parley, to ask for a meeting with Aslan. And of course, they call her Queen of Narnia. And let's see what Mr. Beaver has to say. Queen of Narnia, indeed, said Mr. Beaver. Of all the cheek. Peace, Beaver, said Aslan. All names will soon be restored to their proper owners. In the meantime, we will not dispute about them. Tell your mistress, son of earth, that I grant her safe conduct, on condition that she leaves her wand behind her at that great oak. Okay, so Aslan is setting the terms. He will talk to the White Witch, and he does assure Mr. Beaver that all names will soon be restored to their proper owners. What does that mean? What names are not restored or are not with their proper owners? Well, the Queen of Narnia, the White Witch is calling her that, herself that. Obviously, that's one that Mr. Beaver was shouting about. Then we have the children and their names, what their names are going to be in Narnia if the prophecy is fulfilled. And maybe even Aslan himself. We know he goes just by the term of Aslan, but I wonder if he has any other sort of deep magic names to be talked about later. I don't think he does, but it always makes me think what his other names might be. All right, so we've established this. Now, Aslan is confident that it's going to work, that she's not going to pull a fast one on him. Aslan knows, so we have to trust. Again, reading the book as a little kid, I was nervous. I'm like, Aslan, do you know what you're doing? I don't trust that White Witch, but we'll see. Here we go. And this is a lovely illustration of them talking together. Oh, sorry, Katie, what do I mean by under the thumb? I did say under the thumb back there when I was talking about being gracious about the reconciliation and bringing someone back in. Under your thumb, if you think of when you want to pin something down, you put your full weight on it, on a surface, and you pin it under your thumb. You hold it down under your thumb. And so that's a term or that's a phrase that is sometimes used. Maybe I'm dating myself. Maybe it's not used anymore. But to hold someone under your thumb means you've got control of them and you're going to make them squirm and you're not going to let them up until you're satisfied. So that's the term under your thumb. That's what that means. All right. Let's see. Bella is saying, yes, son of the emperor from beyond the sea. Thank you, Bella, for informing me. I did not remember that one. That will be coming up. That is one of Aslan's proper names. Thank you, guys. See, sometimes when the substitute is here, they need as much help from the students, from the listeners, learners, let's call you learners, because this isn't school. But we need as much help from you guys as we can get. Thank you so much. All right, let's see. I am on time. I think I'm doing okay. Yeah, I might have to speed up just a little. Okay, the offender and the offended. Let's see. Here we go. You have a traitor there, Aslan, said the witch. Of course, everyone present knew that she meant Edmund, but Edmund had got past thinking about himself. After all he'd been through, and after the talk he'd had that morning. He just went on looking at Aslan. It didn't seem to matter what the witch said. Well, said Aslan, his offense was not against you. Have you forgotten the deep magic? Asked the witch. Let us say I have forgotten it, answered Aslan gravely. Tell us of this deep magic. Okay, so here we are. Edmund, he wants nothing to do with the witch anymore. His eyes are on Aslan. He's been fooled by the White Witch. He's been manipulated by her, but he has learned his lesson. His eyes are on Aslan. Nothing she can say is going to ruffle him. He's concentrating on him. And Aslan is pretending that he doesn't know about the deep magic, and he's drawing her out just to see what her impression, her understanding of the deep magic is. It also is very convenient for us as the reader, because now we get to learn about the deep magic. So let's see what she says. Laying down the law. Tell you, said the witch, her voice growing suddenly shriller, tell you what is written on that very table of stone which stands beside us? Tell you what is written in letters deep as a spear is long on the firestones on the secret hill? Tell you what is engraved on the scepter of the emperor beyond the sea? You at least know the magic which the emperor put into Narnia at the very beginning. You know that every traitor belongs to me as my lawful prey, and that for every treachery I have a right to a kill. Ugh. Good grief. Okay. So there's a lot in here. Let's see. Bella is mentioning that Aslan tells of the deeper magic from beyond the dawn of time, right? He's playing dumb. That's another way to say it. Jubilee, you're right. Okay. So we have the table of stone, the stone table. She's mentioning the firestones on the secret hill in letters deep as a spear is long. Whoa, that is, I mean, if you think of a spear, that's very deep. So it's very powerful. What could make a deep engraving like that on stones? Something very powerful. Engraved on the scepter of the emperor beyond the sea. So the emperor beyond the sea is the big power, right? The big creator power. And if it's on the scepter, a scepter is a ruling symbol. So it's tied to the rule of this whole land. And so the emperor put the magic into Narnia. So here we get this whole backstory of this deeper magic and how profound and tied to the very origins of Narnia itself is. And so, of course, everyone complies to it, as well as the witch. And yes, it does show up in Prince Caspian, Bella. You're right. And here is the last bit. And again, as a kid, chilled me to the bone. She says, you know that every traitor belongs to me as my lawful prey, and that for every treachery I have a right to a kill. Oh. So the cost is death for a traitor. Death. Let's see, let's go on. I have to get through all the slides, so I'm going to go a little faster. Laying down the law. And so, continued the witch, that human creature is mine. His life is forfeit to me. His blood is my property. Come and take it then, said the bull with the man's head in a great bellowing voice. Fool, said the witch with a savage smile that was almost a snarl. Kind of snarl. Do you really think that your master can rob me of my rights by mere force? He knows the deep magic better than me. He knows that unless I have blood, as the law says, all Narnia will be overturned and perish in fire and water. It is very true, said Aslan. I do not deny it. Oh, Aslan, whispered Susan in the lion's ear. Can't we, won't you, will you, can't we do something about the deep magic? Isn't there something you can work against it? Work against the Emperor's magic, said Aslan, turning to her with something like a frown on his face. And nobody ever made that suggestion to him again. So that makes it very clear. Even Aslan complies with the law. There's no getting away, getting around, getting behind the law. It must be followed. Susan suggested it, but no, it's not going to work. Shh. Sorry. Here we go. At the sound of his roar, at last they heard Aslan's voice. You can all come back, he said. So this is the conversation, after the conversation he had with the White Witch. They went off to have this parlay, this deal. You can all come back, he said. I have settled the matter. She has renounced the claim on your brother's blood. And all over the hill there was a noise as if everyone had been holding their breath and had now begun breathing again. And then a murmur of talk. The witch was just turning away with a look of fierce joy on her face when she stopped and said, But how do I know this promise will be kept? Hurrah! I can't do it. Sorry, I'd love to. Imagine a huge roar, please. Imagine shaking, reverberating. You know how they feel it in their bones, kind of a thing inside? Imagine that. Roar, roared Aslan, half rising from his throne, and his great mouth opened wider and wider, and the roar grew louder and louder, and the witch, after staring for a moment with her lips wide apart, picked up her skirts and fairly ran for her life. When Aslan says something, he means it. There's no doubting Aslan's word. That, in all this time, he has not reacted to the White Witch. He's not shown force on her, attacked her, intimidated her. He's had a conversation with her. But this, when she doubts his word, his truth, his honor, that's when she gets a response. All right, let's see what Jubilee says. Aslan knows that there is more because Lewis says he knows the deep magic better than that. You're right. You're right. We're going to see that in just a minute. The White Witch thinks she knows the law, and Aslan knows it even better. But at what cost? Preparations. Now they're going to journey, take a little trip away from the stone table, because Aslan wants to take them away from the stone table, as we'll find out. During the first part of the journey, Aslan explained to Peter his plan of the campaign. As soon as she has finished her business in these parts, he said, the witch and her crew will almost certainly fall back to her house and prepare for a siege. You may or may not be able to cut her off and prevent her from reaching it. He then went on to outline two plans of battle, one for fighting the witch and her people in the wood, and another for assaulting her castle. This is continued. Let's see. Let's keep going. What is wrong, Aslan? And all the time he was advising Peter how to conduct the operation, saying things like, you must put your centaurs in such and such a place, or you must post scouts to see that she doesn't do so and so, till at last Peter said, but you will be there yourself, Aslan. I can give you no promise of that, answered the lion. And he continued, giving Peter his instructions. For the last part of the journey, it was Susan and Lucy who saw most of him. He did not talk very much and seemed to be sad. Well, we have read the story, so we know what's coming up. But it's interesting that in the meantime, he turns to Peter, who has shown his worth. He killed Malgrim. He is destined, he is being shaped to be the leader, but he again has to follow through. Peter has to take command. He has to be ready and prepared. So Aslan is preparing him for this time to come, in which Aslan may or may not be present. So that's a big responsibility. But it sounds like Peter is taking in all the information, and as we know, he does come through. All right. Love Narnia. Yes, Katie, I do too. Here we go. What is wrong, Aslan? Aslan's mood affected everyone that evening. Peter was feeling uncomfortable, too, with the idea of fighting the battle on his own. The news that Aslan might not be there had come as a great shock to him. Supper that evening was a quiet meal. Everyone felt how different it had been last night, or even that morning. It was as if the good times, having just begun, were already drawing to their end. Okay, so again, they don't know exactly what's going to happen, but they get the feeling that maybe it's not going to come out the way they're hoping. Peter knows that something may be up because of all the instructions that Aslan gave him, and Aslan's not in a great mood. And no wonder. Aslan's amazing. Aslan is powerful. He's strong, and he has all kinds of deep connection to the deep magic himself. But at the same time, he knows what's coming up, and he's not excited about it. He's not happy about it because it's not going to be pleasant. And that's a small way to put it. So his mood is affecting everyone. Okay, I have to be brave. I was kind of surprised at needing to go through these slides. So again, we got to go a little faster because I'm going to run out of time, but I can do this. I'm going to be brave. Here we go. Can't you sleep either? Said Susan. No, said Lucy. I thought you were asleep. I say, Susan. What? I've a most horrible feeling, as if something were hanging over us. Have you? Because, as a matter of fact, so have I. Something about Aslan, said Lucy. Either something dreadful is going to happen to him, or something dreadful that he's going to do. There's been something wrong with him all afternoon, said Susan. Lucy, what was that he said about not being with us at the battle? You don't think he could be stealing away and leaving us tonight, do you? Let's keep going. Oh, here we go. Let's stop and talk about this. So, again, the feeling. Susan and Lucy get a feeling that something may be not right. Something dreadful is coming. So again, in Narnia, people can get feelings about things. Let's see. Bella is saying, in The Magician's Nephew, maybe Aslan made the rings. Well, now, Bella, you're giving things away. Somebody might not have read that yet. Oh, but it could be a teaser. Yes, go read The Magician's Nephew. It's very informative. It's a good one. Here we go. So let's see what's going to happen. Let's see. That looks like a slide that got a little bit goofy. So unfortunately, I won't have that passage entirely, but I know that this is when Aslan is saying to Susan and Lucy that he does need company. And then he says, yes, you may come if you will promise to stop when I tell you. And after that, leave me to go on alone. So he's giving them rules. He says, yes, you can come with me, because they see that he's getting up to walk away. And he says that they can come, but only if you follow my instructions. And they say, oh, thank you, and we will, said the two girls. They gave their word. Forward they went again, and one of the girls, walking on each side of the lion, but how slowly he walked, and his great royal head drooped so that his nose nearly touched the grass. Presently he stumbled and gave a low moan. Aslan, dear Aslan, said Lucy, what is wrong? Can't you tell us? Let's keep going. Are you ill, dear Aslan? Asked Susan. No, said Aslan. I am sad and lonely. Lay your hands on my mane so that I can feel you are there, and let us walk like that. And so the girls did what they would never have dared to do without his permission, but what they had longed to do ever since they first saw him, buried their cold hands in the beautiful sea of fur and stroked it, and so doing, walked with him. And presently they saw that they were going with him up the slope of the hill on which the stone table stood. They went up at the side where the trees came farthest up, and when they got to the last tree, it was the one that had some bushes about it, Aslan stopped and said, oh, children, children, here you must stop, and whatever happens, do not let yourselves be seen. Farewell. Okay. Excuse me. Sorry. All right, we're getting to it. We're getting to it. Chapter 14. That was all of 13. Good grief, I've got to squeeze this in. Sorry. The deep magic, the law of the stone table, a horrible sight. A great crowd of people were standing all around the stone table, and though the moon was shining, Many of them carried torches which burned with evil-looking red flames and black smoke. But such people, ogres with monstrous teeth, and wolves and bull-headed men, spirits of evil trees and poisonous plants, and other creatures whom I won't describe, because if I did, the grown-ups who would probably not let you read this book. Cruels and hags and incubuses, wraiths, horrors, ifrits, sprites, orkneys, woozes, and ettins. In fact, here were all those who were on the witch's side, and whom the wolf had summoned at her command. And right in the middle, standing by the table, was the witch herself. All right, we get another list of all kinds of weird, horrible creatures. Not where I want to be. Let's see. Who has the power? A howl and a gibber of dismay went up from the creatures when they first saw the great lion pacing toward them, and for a moment even the witch herself seemed to be struck with fear. Then she recovered herself and gave a wild, fierce laugh. "Ha ha, the fool," she said. "The fool has come. Bind him fast." Lucy and Susan held their breaths, waiting for Aslan's roar and his spring upon his enemies. But it never came. 4 hags, grinning and leering, yet also, at first, hanging back and half afraid of what they had to do, had approached him. "Bind him, I say," repeated the White Witch. The hags made a dart at him and shrieked with triumph when they found that he made no resistance at all. Yikes. Okay, so it shows that Aslan is following the rules. He understands the law and he knows what he's got to do. Oh, and binding him fast, bind him fast. Fast in this way does not mean speedily, it means securely. To be bound fast, to tie something fast, to make something fast is to make it secure. Okay. He never moved. "Why, he's only a great cat after all," cried one. "Is that what we were afraid of?" said another. And they surged around Aslan, cheering him, jeering at him, saying things like, "Puss, puss, poor pussy," and "How many mice have you caught today, cat?" and "Would you like a saucer of milk, pussum?" "Oh, how can they?" said Lucy, tears streaming down her cheeks. "The brutes, the brutes!" For now that the first shock was over, the shorn face of Aslan looked to her braver and more beautiful and more patient than ever. "Muzzle him," said the witch, and even now as they worked about his face, putting on the muzzle, one bite from his jaws would have cost 2 or 3 of them their hands. But he never moved. So they've shaved his mane, they've humbled him, they've taken away all of the signs, as far as they can, of his power and his stature and who he is. They've mocked him, made fun of him. This is horrific. This is horrific. Oh yes, and Bella mentions that it is a good thing that C.S. Lewis did not describe the other people that were there. Absolutely. Too horrible to imagine. All right, now we're going to see what else happens at the stone table. At last, the rabble had had enough of this. They'd been mocking him and such. They began to drag the bound and muzzled lion to the stone table, some pulling and some pushing. He was so huge that even when they got him there, it took all their efforts to hoist him onto the surface of it. Then there were more tying of cords and tying and tightening of cords. "Cowards, the cowards," sobbed Susan. "Are they still afraid of him even now?" I think they are. And I think that there's a sense of wickedness when you heap more and more mocking, jeering, and punishment on people that's unnecessary. That is a sign of wickedness. Just seeming to enjoy hurting just for the sake of hurting. So that is definitely signifying who and what these creatures are. The deep magic appeased. Okay. Here's the White Witch. This is her moment. Here's what she says. "And now, who has won? Fool, did you think that by all this you would save the human traitor? Now I will kill you instead of him, as our pact was, and so the deep magic will be appeased. But when you are dead, what will prevent me from killing him as well? And who will take him out of my hand then? Understand that you have given me Narnia forever. You have lost your own life, and you have not saved his. In that knowledge, despair and die. The children did not see the actual moment of the killing. They couldn't bear to look and had to cover their eyes. Very powerful moment. But in the witch's speech, we see what she misses. Her plan, she's going to kill him. She thinks, because what has kept Aslan, or what has kept the queen's, the witch's power and control of Narnia at bay? Aslan. The promise of Aslan, the coming of Aslan, the coming of spring when Aslan comes, that's what has kept the last bit of control of Narnia out of her hands. And so now she thinks, haha, I've tricked him. He has taken the place of Edmund. What a foolish idiot, because now he will be dead. Nothing will be there to stop me, and I will have all of Narnia to myself. Which could work, except Aslan knows, which is why he agreed to this. It didn't make it easier for Aslan to agree to this plan. It didn't make the process of being tortured and bound and killed any easier. But from poor Susan and Lucy's perspective, oh, good grief. All right, let's see what happens next. I ended quite early because I was not sure how long it would take me to get through all the slides. I hoped that this has been pleasant for you, and I hope I've followed. Oh, wait, I have questions. I hope I've followed Miss Raimundo's plan good enough, but Jubilee does ask, what does appeased mean? So let's go back and look at, oh, did I use that word? Because it's not in the thing here. Oh, here it is in the title. Sorry, people. Appeased. Appeased means satisfied. The requirements have been met. Sometimes we use the word appeased more in the terms of somebody's mood or what something wants, and someone appeases them. They do what they want, they satisfy them, they meet all their requirements, that kind of thing. But in this case, it's the deep magic is appeased, is satisfied, is fulfilled. The requirements are fulfilled. Okay, Jubilee? Bella adds her comment. She doesn't think so. And Katie was going to add, what is appeased? Okay. And there it is in the text. All right, so that is satisfied. So as I say, I've finished a little early today. I hope that's not a problem. I hope you've enjoyed this session. You're welcome. And as ever, please send any emails, questions, comments. Let us know how you're doing. Let us know what your groups are doing as part of all of the program packet that we've sent out with all of the supplementary materials. We'd love to see what you're doing. We did have one group send in some photos of some of their activities. Loved seeing them, like some dioramas and things like that. So please feel free to do that. And I'm hoping that Ms. Raimundo will be well and able to present again tomorrow. If she's not, then I'll probably step in again, and I'll have a little more time to prepare. But I love these stories, and we are on the edge, or another fancy word, different word, is the cusp. When you're on the cusp of something, you're right on the edge. We're on the cusp of this very monumental and important event, this turning of events in the book. So please join us tomorrow, and we will have the joy of the morning, of the spring, and that will be a great session. All right, I'm going to look for any more questions. Oh, what is a brute? Beck wants to know, what is a brute? A brute is anybody who is like, it's usually referred to as a masculine feature because it has to do with being someone who is a huge, massive, sort of bully, thug, bad guy, a brute. Just very, very big, massive, physical, that kind of thing. That's a brute. All right. Anything else? Yes, Bella, joy comes in the morning. I think that's what C.S. Lewis was thinking of when he brought this whole event together and wrote his story. So we'll see what happens in the morning. as we all know, if we've read it, we know what's coming, but it's so delightful to talk about. Makes the chapters just that we just did kind of makes it all worthwhile. So, all right. Thank you guys so much. And you're very welcome. I'm happy to have helped out. And perhaps I'll see you again. And if not, you know that I'm the one behind the scenes and I'm looking at your comments and I'm wishing you all well and that you enjoy our time together. All right. Thank you guys. Bye-bye.